one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Rita?
Mary, roll call.
Hefner, Ms. Clayton, Ms. Gagliardi,
Here.
Ms. Pacala,
Here.
Mr. Lamella,
Yes, here.
Ms. Foster,
Here.
Ms. Walrath.
Here. Mr. Edwards?
The New Jersey Open Publics Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the Brick Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be posted on the Administration Office Bulletin Board, the official district website, and Channel BTV 20, and sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Brick Times, the Star Ledger, and the Municipal Clerk's Office.
Reintroduce operations. Mr. Dalton, would you please introduce our new?
Yes, it's my pleasure to introduce tonight for her first school board meeting and her second day of work in the district, Mrs. Kristen Hansen, our new Director of Special Services. Although she's been transitioning in over the last month, Monday was her first day, and we're very happy to have her on board working with us.
Welcome. Mr. Edwards?
Yes, thank you. This evening, the superintendent recommends that the board approves items 1 through 6.
Can I get a motion and a second, please?
Make that motion.
Second.
Any board discussion? Public? Yes. Mr. Finelli? Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's quite an obstacle course you got out there.
Fun, right?
Uh,
It'll be beautiful once it's done.
okay. Couple of things to start off with. Our new superintendent, welcome. I wasn't here at the last meeting. How do you like to be addressed? Simple question.
Gerard is fine.
Gerard is fine.
Yes.
Mr. Dalton, superintendent, Gerard is fine?
Yes.
Okay, you can call me anything but late for supper. When I looked at this agenda yesterday, there was 2 items on it. It seems to have grown a bit today. I can't see the bottom. Is it still? Can somebody move it up? Ah, yes. All those things were added today, which I thought we agreed in the past we were going to try not to do that. But here it is. One of those is 6 pages of transfers. The other one is 44 pages of financial data. I don't know what time it went up there, but it certainly doesn't give the public any time at all to look at that. I thought we kind of agreed that we weren't going to do that, but we did it. So, 2 things. Oh, by the way, since you people added a few things to the agenda, I added a few things of my own, too. I originally thought this was going to be a short meeting. We were going to talk about the financial piece of it. I had a few questions. I had a few comments at the end. You added, I added, so it's probably not going to be that short a meeting. The first one, when we go back to item number 2, changes in the parking lot. I noticed that the changes, $44,000, were basically for fencing, sidewalks, and curbs. Is there some reason that those items weren't in the original proposal or whatever?
There's no in particular reason they weren't in the...
Jim, speaking to the...
I would not say there's a particular reason. The engineer did not have the curbing along the middle school side of the building when you're going out on Harrison included. And the project's in under budget, reviewed, and it feels like that work needs to be done, so it's now being added.
Okay, so these 3 things were added because it came under budget or because somebody didn't do their job?
We're under budget on the project.
Okay. You didn't answer my second part. The architect, did the architect put them on the plan? Did the engineer not see them or what?
They were not on the original specifications.
And the reason for that being?
Do the specifications, Mr. Finelli. I don't know. If you're looking to noose somebody over it, you can't noose anybody over it. It wasn't called for to be done in the original plans. Upon review, where we are within the budget, it's something that the committee, facilities committee, has reviewed and decided that they would like to proceed with.
Okay.
It's no one's mistake. It's
Okay.
just that it's work that we have funds for within the project that we want to get done.
Okay.
I don't don't know where you're trying to go with it, but
I'm not trying to go anywhere. I'm just trying to ascertain whether you had money left over and decided to add these things, or somebody designed them, or somebody screwed up and didn't see them, because it seems like fencing, curbing, and sidewalks was something that would normally go in if you're going to do this job. My own. Okay. Is there some way we can put item number 1 up there so we can go over the 6 things that are on there? Can you do that? All right, that's page 1. I go to page 2. There we are. Looks to be a little out of focus. I just had some questions as to what each one of these things meant, because when I read them, I wasn't absolutely clear about them. So if we could take a minute to do that. The first one was, obviously, we took money out of the reserve fund. All right? That's pretty clear. Could you tell me how much money is left in the reserve fund?
1.5 million will be projected to be left.
1.5, so you took almost half of it.
Correct.
Okay. Number 2, the 2 supervisors that are on there, were these positions that were filled and now they're unfilled, or were they positions that you were going to fill and you're not going to fill them?
There were positions we were going to fill, and they have not been filled.
Okay, so you didn't.
But they were budgeted for, so that's why it still affects the overall budget.
Nobody lost their job over that.
No.
Okay, number 3, the teacher. Is that the same thing, or is that somebody
Yeah,
else?
that's exactly the same thing.
Okay. And number 4, I'm not sure what the resource room means. 2 teachers. What is the resource room?
Special education. Special education.
Special education. Okay. Again, did anybody lose their job, or is that?
No.
No.
No? Okay. Number 4, the next one, bilingual teacher.
In same situation.
Nobody lost their job.
Nope.
And the next 2,
Same,
same thing?
is my understanding. Yep.
Yes.
Same.
Nobody lost their job.
Nobody lost their job.
And we found 16 million in the, 16,000 in something else. Okay, answer my questions. Now, one other question I have, just so I understand. I have the budget here for 2018. This is the legal budget put in the newspaper. And just for my own understanding, because every article that I read in the past 3 weeks had a different amount of money that was being taken out of the school district. 22 million, 23 million, 25 million, adequacy, this, that, the other thing. So there were 6 line items here that are state sources of revenue. Well, actually, there's more, but we don't get any money. So basically, I just want to ask the 6 and which ones we're losing. Can we do that?
Jim?
Okay.
Ask.
The first one is transportation aid, 4,900,000. No?
Not losing.
Not losing it, okay? Extraordinary aid, 900,000.
Not losing.
Extraordinary aid.
Not losing that.
Not losing that.
losing it, okay. Special education aid, 5.7 million.
Not losing.
Jim, excuse me 1 second, Mr. Finley. Could I answer a question that I just heard them say? What is extraordinary aid? Yeah, what would that encompass?
Extraordinary aid is the state of New Jersey funds educational costs that for out-of-district placements and in-district placements for children who $1,000 for in-district and other LEA, local education agency students. Sorry about that.
All right, thanks.
Let me do it this way because I can't face her and speak into the mic at the same time. I'm going to rearrange. How's that? Better?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So, extraordinary aid, the state funds the costs of students who exceed $40,000 for special education that are either in district or placed at another LEA, which is another school district, and $55,000 for students who are placed at private schools. They don't fund 100% of the cost, however. It's prorated based upon the amount that the state budget puts into the extraordinary aid line account for all districts statewide.
Does that answer? Okay, great.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Finelli, I thought that would be helpful.
Are you anything?
See?
I'm glad if you don't understand something you ask. I'm not the only one.
Oh,
who
no,
does
somebody
that.
in the audience asked. I figured it was right on top of your question, and it would be helpful
Okay.
for
Now,
everybody
I just want to
understand.
know which ones we're losing.
Yeah.
Equalization aid, 9 million.
Losing.
Losing it.
Losing.
Okay.
Over 7 years, that is. Not this year.
Over 7 years, I
Yeah.
understand that. My pen just came apart, and I guess the next one is the big one. Oh no, the security aid, 1.6 million.
Not losing.
Not losing. Adjustment aid.
Yes.
Bingo.
Right.
And that's 14 million and change. So we're looking at roughly 23 million over the 7 years.
Correct.
Correct.
And it's just those two items.
Right.
That's the two numbers, yeah.
Are they taking the same percentage out of each one?
Taking the same percentage out of each one?
What do you
I
mean?
don't know how to answer that. They're taking,
You mean, is it an equal percentage divided by
Proportionately.
7 years, or,
We're losing them all in both lines.
right?
yeah.
We're losing
We're
Eventually
losing it
we'll
all
figure
in
it out.
both
Yeah,
lines,
we're-
Mr.
I lost
Finelli.
my little paper that had the percentages on it, but the percentage were broken out over 7 years. So
Right,
they're taking
mhm, yeah,
Graduate.
the same percentage out of each category over 7 years.
yeah, because we're losing them both, totally, so.
That's all I have for that part. I'll see you later.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Karen.
Karen Cusinelli, 113 Duchess Lane.
Thank you.
I just had a question regarding those teaching positions that are being eliminated. I know when we did the budget approval, there were, about 23 paraprofessionals that were cut, and how many teaching positions at that point in time?
I don't.
14.
14.
About
yeah.
14? So we already cut 23 paras, 14 teachers. Now these positions are being eliminated. My concern is that if these were positions that were needed for our students, why did you decide to balance the budget by eliminating those positions?
Want to answer that?
We went through a variety of exercises to try to figure out ways to address this. The guidance that we've been given in order to make our application for emergency relief was that we needed to consider things that demonstrated that this was an emergency. We spent well over a week trying to come up with this amount of money in other line items, and we could not come up with that amount of money in other line items based on the tightness of the budget that we have already gone with. I mean, we looked at supplies, we looked at capital, we looked at a variety of other areas. We could not come up with that amount of money.
Aren't there other new positions that remained in the budget, such as I think it was a director of communications, somebody for HVAC? Were those? I believe those were in the detailed budget and remained.
Well, with the exception, I mean, if you look at the administrator positions, with the exception of the science administrator, we had one before. With the humanities, we have not had for a while and have been trying to, please correct me if I'm wrong, Sue, we have been trying to get that position back. It's been an important position to the board that we'd like to see back. And then most of these teachers' positions, we were looking at trying to bring them in also, but in light of the enormous cuts that we're facing and the fact that we've gotten this information in a matter of a week and a half, Jim? We had a full 2 weeks?
Got the information on July 13th.
Right.
We got the information, and we had to have this.
And we have to have this turned around by tomorrow.
No, I
So-
understand. My question was, how come we're eliminating teaching positions from the budget as opposed to some other new positions that remain in the detailed budget? I just wondered what the rationale was, because to me this has a direct impact on the students.
Well,
I think they all have a direct impact.
I think,
on
yeah, I
the
was just going to say, they all have a direct impact on the students, and right now, under the current situation, I feel that we did, having to respond and react to a budget crisis that we're under in a short period of time, as we continue to look at things, these positions weren't filled. We've done without some of these positions for some time, and it allows us the time now to go back and look at these different positions and what needs to happen moving forward. And at the same time, we are not taking away anybody's job in reacting quickly to being put in an unfortunate financial situation by the state.
I'm just concerned about the impact with already 23 paras, 14 teachers being eliminated. Are we going to see a large increase in our classroom sizes as a result of having to rebalance and doing without all of these teachers and paras?
I think what we're going to be looking at is a lot of different things that we need to consider. And I think, but the most important thing is that the administration and our educators and everybody that has been a part of this process thus far is keeping in mind what is in the best interest of the children, and we're doing the best we can in the short time period and the financial constraints that the state is putting us under. So I think that this is just the beginning of a very long process and a very long conversation, and just the beginning of some very difficult decisions that are going to have to be made for this district.
It's just unfortunate when you look at 6 teaching positions really equate to 2 administrator positions. And again, with all the paras and teachers being cut, I'm just, concerned about the impact on the students.
I'm concerned about the impact on the students also, as well as everybody else sitting up here.
Well, and I know, Mr. Lamella in particular and Ms. Pacala have, repeatedly talked about how important our teachers are. And I'm just, it's just disappointing to me as someone who's pro-teacher to see twice now our teachers and paras being cut. And, and I'm sure Ms. Pacala, it's not going to help her as lead negotiator with the teachers union when we're having all these positions taken away.
To presume that anyone up here is not pro-teacher is a pretty big presumption. I believe that what we're doing right now is not eliminating any person in any of these positions since they weren't filled, and it gives us an opportunity to look at everything again and gives us some time to plan on what we're going to be doing moving forward to, again, address a very huge cut in funding.
Mm-hmm. And with regards to those transfers that were added this afternoon, I noticed that there were quite a few salary reductions. Could you explain, what the math is with that and why that was done that way?
Jim, would you like to take that one?
You have to tell me which one you're talking about, Mr.
It was page. I don't have it printed out, and I don't see it in front of me. I want to say it was maybe page 3 and 4. There was just a long list of positions, and then there were salary reductions. Are you able to click on the transfers
so we can pull it up, and she may be able to better?
I'm sorry, I don't have it printed up.
No, I know. Are we able? I'm asking if they're able to.
Yeah, if you go, I think you passed it. I want to say like maybe let's see, yeah. See all those? There's all reductions there, and I was just wondering if you could explain that.
That's money being transferred. So you're talking about this is June of 2018. You're looking at transfer report. So it's not in the current year budget. It's not 18-19. It's 17-18.
Okay.
And so these are all year-end closeout transfers. We're moving money into the medical insurance line. I indicated at our previous board meeting, our medical account, which we're self-insured for, was underfunded this year. So we had to move money into it in order to prevent a deficit in that account.
Are all those reduction numbers basically overages on those line items for the end of the school year that were moved?
Correct.
So all of those were over budgeted?
They were all,
and that's now being used to compensate the health insurance?
Correct.
Okay.
They're all accounts that had balances left within them that we were able to move into the health insurance account. Now, I would say, and I talked to the Finance Committee about this already, the June report that is on the agenda this evening is what we'll call a draft. It's in the past always been required to be approved by the 15th of August. Today, we were told that it's now being required via CUSAC to be approved by the 1st of August, which is tomorrow, which is why, Mr. Finelli, it was added last minute to the agenda. It's a draft report, however. We still have a lot of numbers that aren't in. One of the big ones that's not in is the actuary's report on medical and prescription, which is most likely going to require another large amount of money to be transferred. The transfer that Ms. Cusinelli was talking about right there is really just to bring that account to zero. So once we get the actuary's report in and know what the incurred but not reported is, we're going to have to move more money into that account. So the available balances that you see right now on the board secretary's report are not accurate whatsoever because of the fact that there's no incurred but not reported medical and prescription claims booked as a
And
liability.
this should all be updated by the next board meeting?
September's board meeting will have the final. We have to have it for the auditors in order to do the audit. August 9th is right around the corner, so we won't have the actual report by then.
Okay, but we'll have it by our
September's board meeting, we'll have
Okay,
the
great. Thank you, Jim.
final copy.
Thank
The
you.
last question I had was, I mean, I'm under the obvious assumption that the board is opposed to these cuts for our district, and I was just wondering if the board discussed approving a resolution in support of Senate Bill number 2803, which actually the Toms River School District did approve a resolution in support of kind of helping, even if just for this year, in areas affected by Sandy and having the ratables down. Is this something that you would consider passing a resolution tonight?
Yes, if, George, you want to add to that? I know you've been
that's
having
actually something
conversations,
that we are actively working on. The resolution last year went in with our appeal to the state for the emergency aid. At this juncture, Jim, if I'm correct, we have not seen, the application has not been available yet. So that was all done in conjunction. Everything that the district did last year for that same appeal would be followed again this year. In fact, I
Which
will say
includes
this,
that resolution that you're speaking of.
resolution. So typically that all goes as one entire packet. We have been in conversation with Toms River, so we're looking at the same exact process. It was our packet that was used at the county meeting to present how that should be done.
So they already sent in their appeal with their... And
No,
that's why
they couldn't have sent in their appeal. They just passed the resolution. We can pass that resolution at next week's meeting.
Okay.
But the appeal packet, that is the official packet that you would send to the Department of Education, is not even available yet.
Right.
We're
Okay.
waiting for that word as to when that's available. Our offices are all set up to complete that appeal.
Okay, so you have...
So,
because
yes.
I printed it in
Oh,
case
no,
you needed
absolutely.
it. Okay,
we're
you have
on
it.
it, Karen. Thank
Yeah.
you for
Okay.
making
Oh, yeah.
sure, but yes, we're on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Did you? Oh. Anyone else? Yes, go ahead.
Because I came late, is this a discussion on certain agenda items?
It's
Open-
just the operations items,
Okay.
which is actually the whole agenda.
Okay, so the open discussion will be later on in the meeting?
Yeah, open comments is later on, but,
Thank you.
okay, no problem. Any other? Yes.
Good evening.
Neve.
I was disappointed that there wasn't any information on this year's budget online, not the user-friendly, and not the detailed budget. I talked to Mr. Edwards already. It's a problem with your new website, but
Well, it was up until we switched
Huh?
over.
And it's fixed.
fixed as of now, which can't do any research now.
Thank you for pointing that out to us. As we switched to a new website.
It
the
was up
18-19,
up until we switched to the new
Right.
website, but in the switch, that was dropped.
Which
and-
was, what day did he switch last? Tuesday? So within the last week, it got dropped, but.
Yeah,
Mr.
we
Reed
apologize
pointed
for
out-
that. Thank you for bringing it to their attention.
Yeah, there's only a few of us that come here and try and help you guys out with the
No,
numbers.
I
We could
appreciate
call
it. Thank you
helping
for
out.
letting us know.
You mentioned the Finance Committee. Who is on the Finance Committee now?
I am Ms. Foster and Mr. Lamel.
Okay, good to know.
And that's also on the website. We have all the committee names
Okay.
on the website.
I already talked to Mr. Edwards. You know, one of the big issues is how much money we earn on the monies that we have in the bank. Reading all the statements, we have a lot of dollars that are in the bank. And up till now, the bank has only been paying us 0.2%, correct?
Yes.
He did say it's going up July 1st as interest rates are going up. There is a website called treasurydirect.gov, and you can go on and get 1.8% for 4-week treasury bills. He indicated that people are looking to do that investment for us. So I would encourage the Finance Committee to look into that and maximize the amount we make on our money. For example, since we know your tax money comes in quarterly, November of 2017, I printed out the treasurer's report, the Ocean First statement. You had $20 million in the bank at the start of the period and $21 million at the end of the period. 13 in and 14 out. So, you know, there's a lot of interest that could be made there now the interest rates are
Right.
going up. So I hope you take that into consideration.
That was discussed at the last Finance Committee meeting.
Good, great. You know, as I went through the detailed budget has almost 800 line items. As I went through them, I noticed that most of the budgeting is done in November. The numbers are input in November for the following year. And particularly in salaries, as you can see from the last thing you had up, there's always monies left over in the salary accounts, because once you start the year, you know who the teachers are, you know what their salary is going to be, and you know how much is going to be left over. Okay? So, you know, maybe you would do more updating on the salary accounts before you get to the final budget in May. I don't understand each year why there's so much variance. And it's only maybe because you're putting the numbers in November. So, you know, you put the numbers in, and there were a few accounts I went through, and, you know, Mr. Edwards would take out some things, you know, furniture, tables and chairs would take out in, I think it was February or April, when he's trying to get the budget down a little bit. But, you know, somebody's got to scrutinize those almost 800 accounts, because there's a lot of wild-ass guesses in those numbers. And if you don't scrutinize them, one of them is exam monitors. You know, there's a big number in there, 14,000 or something now. What did we do before that? It was a new item this year.
Miss,
So that's for, it's for the SAT, for monitors to be available for the SAT when we administer it on a Saturday.
What did we do in years prior? There was no numbers in there.
We were interrupting the school day and having those students take it during the school day. We decided to move it back to not on a school day.
Another 14, 15,000. I mean, those are the kind of items you got to weigh somewhere along the line. It's nice to just move these items along and add money to the budget, but, you know, did we always have substitutes for administrators? Or is that a new item?
When an administrator is, when we're down an administrator and we can't hire them for a position, and we have to put an interim in, as we've done.
So it's an interim.
It was an interim. Yes.
Not just a substitute if you're out for the day.
Right.
And the other one nobody will want to touch, but this is one of the largest districts that has courtesy busing. And, you know, it's in the $6 to $10 million range for courtesy busing. Oh, we can't do anything about that. It's locked in stone. So maybe you got to take a look at that. It's maybe put it on a referendum. I know it was approved on a referendum, but if you're going to have to come up with a $22 million hit over the next 7 years, you got to start looking at some big items.
absolutely. And we appreciate you bringing these things to our attention, because it's going to take all of us as a district, as our community, our teachers, our parents, our administrators, our board members, looking at everything to try to pull together and fall within the budget that we can manage.
Ms. Walrab, if I may, because I know Mr. Reed, who was on the board before, and he was actually chair of the Finance Committee, so he has a good handle on the overall, most of the accounts, I should say. He spent a lot of time with us reviewing accounts. And, you know, Mr. Finelli had said it at a previous board meeting, and I think we're losing focus about, like, what's happening with the state and what we're being told. You know, we seem to be concentrating on the reduction of expenditures and how we can reduce expenditures. And, you know, if we want to reallocate expenditures to different things and come up with different priorities, that's subject to argument. You know, one person's priority may not be the same as another's. But as I've said to you during the public hearing, and the state has affirmed it now through this new bill, we don't have an expenditure problem. We're $12 million under adequacy. The state's own funding formula says we don't spend enough money in Brick Township on the education of our students. In fact, what they're telling us now is We're spending so little that we're in jeopardy of providing a thorough and efficient education. The bill includes a mandated 2% tax levy increase, which is not going to be enough to offset the amount of money we're going to reduce in state aid over the next 7 years. So we are going to have expenditure cuts. We're going to have expenditure cuts. There's no way around it. And they are going to be, in my opinion, draconian. They're going to be big. We got to cut $23 million over the next 7 years, and we're not going to get $23 million in tax levy to replace it. We have a revenue problem in the district.
I understand.
And we're not going to get any closer to adequacy as state aid is being reduced, and we can't catch it up through tax levy. The local fair share in this district, and I've said it for years, under the School Funding Reform Act, which is being applied as a constitutional accepted formula within the state, it made the Abbott decisions go away. We are $23 million below local fair share. And the state, through the literature that you've read recently, is saying, you know, if you've read any of Sweeney's comments, they're not going to fund districts such as ours who aren't funding their own schools. We're not funding our own schools right now. I hate to be the one that has to say it out loud, but right now we are $23 million below local fair share. We're not meeting the thorough and efficient education adequacy numbers that the Department of Education has put forth. And yet all we want to ever talk about is what expenditures can we cut. We shouldn't be looking at cutting expenditures. We got to get to the state level and find out, how is this fair to Brick Township's taxpayers that we're being considered a wealthy district? Because when I look around and I drive around Brick and I go to other communities, I don't see where we're a wealthy district. How is it that Princeton, under this formula, is getting more state aid this year? How did they deserve more state aid and we deserve less? How is it under funding formulas, districts like that, like West New York, is getting $4 million more? They're getting $4 million more in state aid. I know you're familiar with West New York. Do they deserve $4 million more and we deserve $23 million less?
I'm not going to comment on that. I have no idea. But your
not,
point is well taken.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say we raise the taxes and raise all this
I don't
extra
know,
money.
the taxes
What are
the
we going to
idea.
rate? What are we going to spend it on? Are we just
Well,
going to
that's-
spend
I
it
was
willy-nilly?
No, I don't think we should spend it willy-nilly, but we certainly have a lot of infrastructure or things that we could utilize here. The buildings aren't in great shape. They're in better shape than they were 10 years ago, but they're not fantastic at this point.
Yeah, I've said all along, it's priorities. What's your priorities? So, you know, if just one example, maybe it's not a good one, but if your priority is to have Saturday SATs and you want to spend the extra $35,000 on monitors, then you decided that was a top priority. If you want to spend it on, you know, a teacher or an aide, you know, that's a different priority. If you want to fix up the sidewalks, you know, that's a priority. So I appreciate it's tough for the board to come up with all these priorities. Thank you for volunteering.
And our priorities, as we all know, no one will ever agree on what number one priority is versus the other. But I think what I wasn't not trying to say we should raise taxes by the $23 million that we're under a local fair share. What I am saying is that the funding formula that is currently in place is not fair for Brick. And that's what we should be focusing on. Because the funding formula right now says we get plenty of state aid and we don't tax our residents enough. That's what we need to focus on, not whether we should be spending $14,000 on Saturday exam proctors or on teachers.
Well, I think the community is very interested in doing what they can to help us determine what some of these items should be that need to be focused on. Can you explain to us and to the community exactly what falls under those costs and that what makes up that number? So that it helps explain what we're looking at and what can't be.
So the School Funding Reform Act, which came out in 2008, built a hypothetical school district. And within that hypothetical school district, they went through and they assigned all of the different things that you would need to run that school district, from a superintendent right down to a teacher's aide to a custodian, and you know, if you had how big of a school district, how big of a building you would need, and how much it would cost to operate that building. And based upon all that, they came up with a hypothetical budget for that K-12 school district. And then they divided it by the number of kids and came up with a cost to educate one of those kids. It's called your educational adequacy cost per child. And then they assigned different attributes to that based upon whether the child's at risk, special education, bilingual, and again, assign cost to those things as well. With that, then, they take those numbers and assign them to all of the districts within the state to come up with your adequacy budget per district. They take all the students within Brick Township and say, based upon your enrollment and where your kids are, whether they're in special education or bilingual or ELL or at risk, here's the amount of money that you need to educate those kids. In our case, they come up with an adequacy budget of $128 million.
And when they put that adequacy budget in, was Brick meeting that?
No, we've been under adequacy ever since the formula was developed. We've never met that number. We're
And
under
yet,
adequacy.
all these years, we haven't met the number, and now they take $23 million away.
Correct. And tell us that the $23 million they're taking away should be coming from the local taxpayers. And here's where the real crux of it is. And this is why it's a huge issue for us, that even if we were all to sit here and agree, and I know we're not gonna, that they're correct, and that the $23 million we used to get from the state should now come from the taxpayers, we don't have the ability under the current law to even get the $23 million from the taxpayers, because we have a 2% tax levy cap. Now, we're one of the 30 districts that are going to be subject to that mandated 2%. So whether we want to go to cap or not, we're going to go to cap for the next 7 years. And so we're going to have to determine what our priorities are, because we're going to be losing more state aid than we are raising taxes. But even after that 7 years is up, we're not going to have raised the $23 million that we're going to have lost. That's a problem.
Right. Thanks, Jim. Any other public comment? Questions? Good. Sure.
How did the state come up with the theory that this is a rich community and we can afford this?
Oh, great question. Great question.
I always ask great questions.
So once they developed on the School Funding Reform Act the amount that districts should be spending, in our case $128 million, they then look at the equalized valuation and the district income. So when you do your income tax return, there's a little 4-digit code that you have to put on your return. That 4-digit code that you put on a return assigns your income to Brick Township, just like all the other residents of the state. So they take your district's personal income and they use that as half of the weight, and they take the equalized valuations of the township and they use that as the other half. And then what they effectively do is they assign a property tax rate to it and determine, based upon the wealth of your community, how much can your district afford to pay of the $128 million. And in Brick Township's case, what they've determined is that we can afford to pay all $128 million. In fact, they've actually assumed that we can pay $129 million. Our equalized valuations and our district income shows that we can pay more than our adequacy budget. So we're actually have according to the formula, the ability, based upon what our taxpayers make and report on their income taxes and what the value of their properties are, to pay more than the adequacy budget. And that's how they come up with the state funding formula that says we don't deserve the equalization aid or the adjustment aid.
Okay, so you have to forgive me. I'm not like Mr. Finelli or anybody that's financially a whiz. Your tax code is not a Bricktown code.
It's not.
Your earnings doesn't go into our.
But yours does.
Honey, mine ain't going to make any difference in.
Well, I don't think mine's going to swing it that much either. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh, I think so. I don't think you want to go there, Jim, because I don't want to. When you take the highest taxed houses in this town, those people don't live here.
Doesn't matter. They have the ability to pay, and they pay taxes here.
But they don't pay their income taxes in here. They don't put
their income
our
taxes
code.
are being reported somewhere else. So in those people's cases, and that is a problem under the formula, they're being split between two different communities. And their children may not attend this community. So what the funding formula tells you there is that we're benefiting from that. Because we've got the value of their property in our township with no children attending our schools.
Well, this thing with the taxes and the state saying, oh, you're too rich to get any money from us, has been out for a while. It wasn't just a week or two.
Been out since 2008.
Well, but I'm saying, this saying you're not getting $22 million from us. Was there a hearing that anybody could go to and say, are you people nuts?
Yeah, we did.
And what did they say? Too bad. We have to give the money to Newark. We have to give the money to Lakewood.
Well, not in those words, but.
Well, how much can Brick taxpayers take over the next 7 years as an increase, and then you think in November you're going to have a referendum because safety issues? Do you know how many houses are in foreclosure in Brick Township?
If Mr. Finelli's statistics are correct, and we do, yes.
The numbers will quadruple because people will walk away from whatever they own.
And I've said that to our legislators.
People can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was a way that I could pay my taxes and say, I'm not paying any school taxes, I would do it. Because I'm tired of it. I'm tired. You're saying the buildings are in bad shape. You have custodians that walk around, oh yeah, yeah. Why weren't they doing something every year the same way as years ago when you asked for that $93 million referendum? And there were meetings at the high school, and I told Mr. Philippone to his face, when I came to the meeting, I wasn't sure. After I saw the shape of the building, I said, I wouldn't give you a dime. Why aren't the people that you're paying keeping up on these things? We're not saying create a building, we're saying keep it up. Do the custodians not work 12 months a year?
They do, and I think you're focusing again on the wrong issue. I don't know that.
Well, you're saying the buildings need to be upkept and
do you understand? So I don't know that you fully understand the magnitude of the bill. Your taxes are going to go up by 2% a year for the school district, and you and this board have no say in it whatsoever. And that's going to happen over the next 7 years. The state government has determined and passed a bill that says Brick Township and 29 other districts like us do not raise their local fair share, that you and your neighbors are not supporting the school district as the way that it should be. And therefore, since you will choose not to do it, we're going to make you do it. And you will now have your taxes raised without your decision or the folks that are sitting at this table's decision for the next 7 years. It's just going to happen.
Well,
that's the
and
law.
You're going to see that people are going to walk away from the house and they're not going to pay taxes, and you're going to get even less money coming in.
We're not arguing with you.
I'm not arguing with you over that. I agree with it. I'm just telling you that the focus should not be on.
Well, how about getting Mr. Murphy, who came here in January, and I love Brick Town. It's a wonderful town. I love it. I love it. Get his body here and tell us why he signed this bill. Why he felt that the wonderful town that he came to January 1st suddenly became too wealthy to warrant any money. I'm tired of people saying, you're lovely. She's a little overweight. I want you tell me to my face, and don't stand here in public and saying all the right things, and then behind doors, the truth comes out.
Thank you. Yes.
John O'Rourke, 468 Westlake Drive in Brick here. What has been the reaction to the local legislators? Talking about Wolf and McGuckin and Hosethel. And as you say, there are 29 other districts. I'm not sure if there are 29 other legislators involved or legislators over, because I know Brick and Toms River are the same people. What has been their reaction to this new law by the state?
Oh, one of the reactions, I know, and Mrs. Cusinelli spoke about it already.
The law.
Senator Holsapple sponsored a bill
right.
that would say if you're in a district that's been affected, your rateable base has been affected by a catastrophic act or some other means, which we did. We had Superstorm Sandy and so did Toms River, that you would then not be subject to the state aid reduction plan.
Yeah. I'm just wondering why some of them are not at the meeting here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay.
Okay, so Jim, let me just recap what you said. The state bases the formula, what you should be collecting, half on whatever you check off on your state tax return for the municipal code,
right,
and half on the property values.
Equalized valuations, yes.
Okay, so what you're saying is all those people in the expensive homes that have a second home up north, rather than worrying about voting down here because their vote doesn't matter anyway, they should file the state tax return from their up north home and check off that code rather than the one down here.
Well, when you file your tax return, there's legal requirements as far as what code you put in that box based on your residency.
You know, that's a good question because there's no set definition of which is your domicile.
Yes, there is. The state of New Jersey has...
What? What is it? Tell me.
Your primary residence has to be 6 months in a day that you spend.
Right.
Okay, so if you have two homes in New Jersey, you're in New Jersey the whole time.
But it's the one that you consider your primary residence. So where are you spending 6 months in a day? Where are your children going to school?
Do you think everybody's aware of that when you have two homes in New Jersey? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think due to Sandy, a lot of people down here are aware of that because they didn't get aid in fixing their second home. Because
okay, well, I'm just, somebody would be watching this
exactly, Mr. Finale.
on the video, and, from what you're saying is we should get, wherever there's a choice, they should check off the box up home.
No, I'm not saying that because there isn't a choice. When you file your income tax return, the state of New Jersey has laws in place that tell you what code you have to put in that box.
And I think most insurance companies ask what your primary residence is when you own two homes.
No, they don't.
You're bound by law what box to put in. But
no,
Mr. Reed, the bigger problem, and this is one that I don't know if you heard me speak about this before, the bigger problem is on the equalized valuation side. When we look at the data, Brick Township's considered a very wealthy community on the equalized valuation, and that's even with us being down 301 million.
I think it was
309 million since Superstorm Sandy. We haven't fully recovered. And so on the equalized valuation side, we're considered a very wealthy community. And that number is impacted by pilot programs. So when you go into some of these districts now.
All right, when you say equalized value, does that include all categories?
Yeah.
Commercial, residential, vacant land?
Yes.
Okay, so that's, so how much are we taxing the commercial properties? What's their valuations? It's based on their income.
No. Equalized valuation for commercial properties is not based upon their income.
Yes, it is.
Not to the best of my knowledge, it's not.
You're wrong on that. There's three ways to evaluate commercial property. One of them is their profit. They get a commercial appraisal, give it into the town, and there's like a cap rate calculation, and it's based on their income, whatever that falls to the bottom line. Do a little research on that. But residential, it's strictly the market value that the tax assessor puts on it.
Okay, so if you're in a township that happens to have a lot of waterfront property on the Hudson River, and you've put that property into what's known as pilot programs, payment in lieu of taxes, that comes right off the books and is not calculated into your equalized valuation.
Yeah, I disagree with all pilot programs, so we agree there.
When they run those numbers, the pilot program values is not in those numbers.
Right. So,
what do you think? So some of those districts that are receiving a large amount of state aid, when you look at their equalized valuations, look like they're very poor.
But maybe it's a little politics there. This is a Republican county, and that's not a Republican government.
I'm trying to say this is where we need to put our focus. Our focus needs to be on getting the word out to the people of our community, Toms River, Middletown, districts that are like us, to fight that issue. And to say that the way the state aid is being distributed right now is not fair. It's not fair.
So there's a lot of things that aren't fair, and getting them changed is a legislative issue. So when the legislature doesn't care, they're not going to change it.
But they did just change it, and the change they did was very hurtful to us.
Yes, and they did change it because Sweeney wanted it changed. That's the bottom line. Anyway, let's go to another item here. At the June 28th regular meeting, you had a couple painting items on the...
could we save that for public comment since it's not specifically on this?
Okay.
Did you mind? I'm sorry. Thank you. Any other? Yes. Okay.
little bit?
Of course.
Why, thank you. Do I say my name? And
Yes,
my
name
address?
and your address.
Okay.
Mm.
Stephanie McGordy, 508 Silverton Road. I just want to say thank you, everyone, for dedicating your time to the kids of Brick schools. I really appreciate it. But I had one quick question. Do you guys think if there's any hope that this was just a one-year plan?
I'll be
That
honest.
things will change.
I'll be honest, I'm not running again. I don't
That
think
things
this
will
is a one-year
change,
plan.
that
I think
that
part
it
of
could possibly change, that maybe, you know, after we continue to push and we get a lot of parents maybe to do something about it. And
the honest answer is I'm an honest person and people don't like that, is partially what Mr. Reed said is correct, and kudos. I still want to know what the other two formulas were for the businesses. I like that piece. But I believe this isn't going to end in a year. I believe there's going to be outcry, there's going to be pain, and people are going to rally. But as I've seen anything the state does in education or when cutting or adding money, it normally lasts a few years, and then it goes away. So I am praying it's not 7, because I know the impact this will have on kids, and there's no way around that. I see that coming. I'm hoping that logical heads prevail, and they see the damage this is causing, and maybe the political piece comes out of it, and they start to fund things properly. But I don't think this is going to be for a year. Regrettably, I'm not as well versed as others sitting up here. I just get to read the paper once in a while and look online at some things. And I don't think it's going to end, and I'm scared. I'm nervous for this district, and I'm nervous for every single kid in the classroom. I am. And that's my real answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Steph. Yes, Mr. Finale.
Can I attempt to answer her question?
Yeah, Mr. Finale, can you answer it in the public comment? Let's just make sure that there's nobody else that, do you want to just go ahead real quick?
Be very
I
quick.
just want to make,
I'll be very quick.
Go
All right?
ahead.
The state government now is promising to fully fund the school monies in 7 years. Does anybody know how much money New Jersey owes to the pension system right now?
Oh, Jesus.
I'll take a wild guess.
Yeah.
Come on, anybody? $45 billion.
Billions. Yep.
That is 45,000, $1 million. $1 million times 45,000.
Right.
Does anybody here in their right mind think they're going to make up that money in 7 years?
Thanks, Mr. Finale. Any other comments to this section? No? Mary?
Yes. Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. Walrap?
Yes. Public comment. It's open for any comments anyone has. Who wants to start off? Mr. Finale. Yeah. No, anyone else? Oh, go ahead. There you go. And then do you want to go after? Yeah, good.
Just as questions come into my head, how much is the school enrollment down for September from last year?
I know it's been changing. We're still getting people in. Can you guys, I know you're looking at that.
Typically right now it's a very mobile number. It keeps moving. We're having students registering and leaving on a regular basis. That's why typically across the state we wait until the date of October 15th for the official count, because things settle down at that point. So across the state, all school districts usually look at their October 15th count because students are still moving. There's still new leases on properties, and we've had very active registration at this point. So it's very hard to tell. We're tracking it, but we don't have an exact number at this point. It's looking stable to last year, but I wouldn't want to say that it's exact.
Is there a way of tracking how many children come from one house?
Oh, absolutely. In the student information system, when they register, the children are linked to their home address, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Jerry DeSico. I live in the Herbertsville section. First of all, I want to start off by saying it was very clever of you to pull a little bait and switch before and saying that there is not an expenditure problem. There's always an expenditure problem. And I hope down the road when there's these draconian cuts that you're talking about, that you're going to share the pain, specifically you, and also the administrators are also going to share the pain. Because in the past, when they've always talked about cutting teachers, cutting cafeteria workers, cutting maintenance, I've very rarely seen them cutting administrators. So I hope that that's going to be also on the chopping block as well. But let me answer a question that you also posed before. It's politics through and through. Murphy does not like the democratic makeup of Brick and Toms River and the other 27 towns that they stole money from. And let's say it right now, they stole money. And what are they doing? They're dumping it in a crap hole up in North Jersey, and we know where that is. So I hope that you guys have a plan, because we're going to battle. I don't think this is going away. You got two warring factions of a socialist party in Trenton. You got the Sweeney nutjobs, the syndicate under Nucky Norcross. That's one faction. This guy wants to be governor. He always wanted to be governor. He's fighting against a pill-popping pothead from the Navasink River who, quite frankly, is a terrible dancer. And when you got these two psychotic ideologies going at each other, we're getting screwed. So, and unfortunately, the Republican Party, they're not getting off on this one either, because they have no backbone in this state. They're jellyfish, because when these psychopaths down in Trenton start stealing money, they just sit back and wipe their hands and do nothing about it. So I feel sorry for you guys sitting in these chairs for the next several years. This is going to be a battle. And if you're going to get people out here and the taxpayers out here to come and support you, you know, I want you to share the pain, first of all, because in the past, that administrative stuff was never shared. Getting back to the politics of this, the Abbott districts. See, these are things where nobody goes to bat for the suburban districts. Is Asbury Park an Abbott district? Has anybody gone to Cookman Avenue lately? That place is thriving down there. Is Red Bank an Abbott district? These Abbott districts are destroying the rest of the state, and yet nobody stands up and puts a stop to it. So that's another problem. So, I mean, you guys are in for a really tough haul, and believe me, I'd be the first one out there. I'd be on that front lines with you, because, quite frankly, we're heading into a mini California. This is socialism 101. So there is a political element here, and I hope you guys recognize the political element here. It's dangerous. It's psychotic, and it's dangerous. And I want to see people getting angry. You know, the mayor of this town, he stood up, and he told that nut job, veto this bill. Veto this bill after he swore him in. The mayor had some guts to say that. But you know what? This guy ain't going to veto this bill because he can't stand us here. So there is an element here. There is an element besides, and I'll leave all the intellectual stuff to you guys because it's out of my league. All I see is the bottom dollar here, and you know, like Melanie said, we're really going to get hurt. People are going to hemorrhage this state in droves. But the socialists in Trenton don't care about that. So I wish you luck, and listen, I'd love to go to the battlefield with you. I'm there, but we're going to need to, and here's, I guess, a question I do have. I want to convert this into a question for somebody. Is there any game plan to combine with the 29 other towns to sue these people and sue Murphy and sue Sweeney directly? So I want to know if there's a plan to combine efforts, to combine resources, and sue these people. That's the first thing.
I can say that there is a plan to work together in coming up with our next move. I don't want to put in the mouths of the 29 other districts as to what they're willing to do, but thoughts of different ways to combat this have come across all of our minds, and I'll leave it at that. But we are working and talking about what we can do next in trying to battle this.
Thank you. And let's make it perfectly clear. This is retaliation 101. Murphy got his clock cleaned in these two towns, and he's coming after us. Thank you.
Well, I know that, you know, it's dangerous to come after people's kids, so, and Brick's a strong community with a lot of people who've been here a very long time, kids, grandkids, grandparents. So we're going to do what we need to do the best we can with turning this around to our best of our abilities. Any other public comments? Yes.
Okay, the issue I was bringing up before is that on the human resources item number 37 on last June 28th agenda, you had a summer employee for painting, 18-19 painting crew. You only had one employee, and it was a rate of $13.46 per hour, 7 hours a day,
right,
Monday to Friday. But you also approved item number 20 for painting, and GPS renewed a contract, and the pay there for the painter was $65 an hour, and for a painter's helper it was $40 an hour. So I know from the past we used to have crews that would come in during the summer and paint, and it was for a heck of a lot less than those fees.
We still have that. Jim, would you like to? Yeah.
We talked about that last meeting. So
yeah,
the one painter that you're seeing there is was an addition or a correction, Mr. Cranston?
It was an addition to the
right.
They were on a previous agenda, the painting crew. So we still have the painting crew in the summer, and the company that was hired for the painting is doing work that our crews would not be capable. It's high work that requires lifts and scaffolding that we don't have the equipment to do. It's all mostly exterior work.
Okay, thank you. Although I don't agree with it. So what are your plans on the referendum at this point? Are you still going to do it?
As of this point, we're still moving forward. We have a number of parents that would like to see these different safety measures put into the schools. We're leaving it up to the taxpayers. At this point, we are moving forward with it.
It's not free to put a referendum together.
But at this point, Jim, the money has already been.
Okay, yeah, the money's been allocated. That doesn't mean it's well spent. It costs money to do a referendum.
Jim, can you please answer that, because I had asked this question.
So the architect was hired already. I'm not sure what money you're talking about. The election itself is being done at the November election, so there's no additional expenses there.
Oh, you're not going to advertise? You're not going to put out any materials?
There'll be publication materials put out, yes.
Yeah, and that costs money.
Yeah, sure. So yes, there's
right.
Definitely.
So if anybody's listening to this $22 million cut over the next 7 years that's on the books right now, I would seriously question whether that would be a smart move to put that referendum out there this year.
Mr. Reed, we are completely and totally focused on the safety of our students in this district and of our employees and our teachers. And this is a standard that is being set for us, not just by the state, but by the federal government. And we are going to comply with this, and we are going to do what is best for the interests of our school students.
And I would agree with you, except for the fact that when you put the budget together, if that was your top priority, the students, you would have included that as a capital project in the current year's budget and put these other items
we don't have it. That's why we went to the referendum.
Huh?
$12,580,000. We can't put $12 million in capital projects into the budget.
You guys are convinced and some people want it. All I'm saying is that you might have a plan B, because things aren't going well right now financially for
our plan B is our parents and backing up our parents' desire to make sure their children are in the most safe environment they can be in 8, 9, 10 hours a day.
That's a great philosophy. How much are you willing to spend on it? An unlimited amount of money?
No one's saying unlimited.
It's not unlimited. It works out to be about $15 per the average household a year.
That's
Jake,
great. Everything's
what it is.
$15, $7, $10, and, you know, there's taxpayers that don't have that extra money.
And
So-
those taxpayers will have a say when they go to the polls. In the
You're right.
So
That's what I'm saying. I thought maybe you'd have a second thought, but I guess not. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Finelli.
I'm not used to having tough acts to follow. Thank you. Where was I? Oh, I'm going to bounce around a little bit, so bear with me. And I'm going to respond to some of the comments that Gerard made, and I'm going to respond to a lot of comments that Mr. Edwards made. And I'm going to share with you information that you may know, but I don't think you know. And oh, by the way, my numbers, Jim, are always somebody else's numbers. I don't make them up. The 1,300 came from the town council meeting. All right? I missed the last meeting. Was that the meeting where the state come in and said they were taking over running the Brick School District?
No.
Oh. So the state doesn't run the Brick School District, do they? You people do.
Yep.
Okay? Remember that.
Oh, I do.
I might bring it up again and again and again. You run the school district, not the state. Now, as I understand it, the state is taking those monies away, all of them. So whatever we do doesn't matter. They're taking those monies away as it stands right now. No matter what you do, that money's gone in the next 7 years as it stands right now.
As it stands right now, yes.
Okay. What is the average cost per student in Brick right now? What's the cost? $14,900.
Yeah, I didn't know to the T.
14,900.
Yes. Mhm.
That does not include busing, right? Which was a
That
big.
does not include busing?
No, it does not.
Okay.
Trust me.
I don't not
Trust
believe
me.
you. I'm just
Trust
sure
me.
that, you know, you and
Right?
Jim,
Does not
you and
exclude
Jim are on the
busing.
same page.
No, I didn't know the answer to this question previously, but I heard Larry say that Brick spends $10 million on courtesy busing a year. Is that correct?
I don't know that to be correct. No, I don't have an exact number on courtesy busing.
Okay. No, not total, but he said not total busing, he said courtesy busing. So nobody knows what we spend on courtesy busing in the Brick District right now, okay? Does anybody know what the average cost per student in the state of New Jersey is?
Average cost of student in the state of New Jersey.
Right. $20,000, that's right off the report that I got today, boom. So we're spending 14 and change. The average the average for the state is 20, okay? And while busing is not included, and some places have busing and some don't. So whatever.
So you're saying that those numbers aren't, that 20 is including buses, where our number isn't including buses?
No.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
Right. The numbers that you see, all of the numbers it costs, is called the comparative cost. If you look at the bottom of the budget, it tells you the things that are not included in that cost. The big one is busing. I won't go through
Right,
the
and that's our number, but I'm asking, is the $20,000 number that you're saying, does that include statewide average, does that include busing or not?
Good question. I don't know.
Okay, that's
what they put out.
Okay.
Right?
No, it
There are
doesn't.
some
No, it
districts that
doesn't.
spend a lot of money on busing, and there are some districts that don't spend
Yeah,
money.
that's
Okay,
why-
but
that's why it
Jim,
does
that's what I'm
not.
asking. Are we comparing
The
apples
average
and
cost
apples?
does
Or?
not include transportation because it can't be considered your comparative, because then you wouldn't be comparative
Right,
anymore.
that's
So
what
it
I'm
does
asking.
not.
Now,
Okay, so the $20,000 per
Is-
student does not include busing
transportation.
as our $14,000.
If you're looking, I don't have that number in front of me, but if you're looking at the comparative spending guide average does not include transportation.
And you, to the best of your knowledge, is about $20,000?
I could look it up for you. I don't have it in front
Could
of
you
me.
just confirm
doesn't
we're
matter, Steph.
comparing the same thing? Go ahead, Mr. Go ahead.
some districts spend a lot of money on busing. Other districts don't spend a lot
Right.
of money on district. But in that state average, you've got district like Asbury Park, $35,000 per student. So that drives the average, right? So while we're spending $14,000, almost $15,000 a year per student, you've got the state telling you that's not enough, right? Now, where they come out with that number, who the hell knows? Because they're just saying it's not enough, and I'm going to talk about that. And
Well, we
Larry-
do know where they came up with it, because Mr. Edwards just explained it. Whether or not we agree with it
Right.
is something different, but yeah.
Larry brought up the fact that well, if you had more money, where would you spend it? And the first thing we talked about was the facilities, all right? Well, the facilities probably are not going to increase teachers' the scores, park, and things like that, which I'm also going to talk about. So you might put more money in the buildings, but is that going to change the overall education?
Well, some would argue that in an educational setting that's safer, cleaner, it offers air conditioning and things like that, ups scores and a child's ability to learn. We could go back and forth all day with what exactly goes into the overall feeling safe, feeling secure. You know, we can argue that stuff back and forth all day.
I don't want to argue.
Right.
I don't want to argue, especially with you. All right. I don't normally like to talk about what's going on in other school districts, but because of the similarities and because of what was brought up, I want to talk a little bit about our neighbors to the south, Toms River. All right? And if you read the article that was in the paper, right? Toms River dodges a draconian budget cut. I'm only going to read the things that I highlight, right? The Board of Education agreed to use $1.1 million in additional surplus funds and $1.2 million in maintenance money. Kind of like what we did in Brick, right? And I guess they believe, like you believe, that there's a chance you might get some of that.
Well, they followed our model that we did last year in getting back some of our, the aid that we had lost. So, yes, that's what we're doing.
They hope they might get some of that money back. Their total cut on this was $2.3 million, so they're above us by about $400 million, all right? This is a Band-Aid. This is getting us through the school year. We are balancing the budget by using surplus, blah, blah, blah. They're facing a $5 million cut next year, kind of like Brick, right? School aid figures who cares about that? The district has also been lobbying for legislation introduced by Sweeney and House of those people to get money back through Sandy aid and whatever else, kind of like Brick, right? The township rateable base is still about $600 million less than it was before Sandy, kind of like Brick again. Am I talking about Brick or am I talking about Toms River?
Other districts.
Now, this is the part that Toms River didn't tell you about, okay? I'm going to read the whole article. It's not a very big article. Toms River school officials complain that they deserve more state aid due to Sandy and flaws in how the school aid formula measures the town's wealth. Exactly what I heard here, all right? They rightfully point out that their cost per student is much less than the state average. We're talking about Brick, right? What they never mention is that enrollment has declined 14 consecutive years, which is a 15% drop in student enrollment, while staffing increased by 14%. They lost 15% of their students and their staffing went up 14%. The enrollment dropped by 2,800 students, which exceeds the average enrollment of a New Jersey school district. They lost more students than a lot of schools have, all right? Toms River has always been the most cost-effective district in the state because it was 7 times larger than the average district, but recently has been surpassed by Edison, blah, blah, blah. According to the New Jersey Department of Education website, Toms River has added 237 staff positions since 2000 when enrollment was much higher, blah, blah, blah. Many other districts in Monmouth and Ocean counties have also had the same budget problem. Am I talking about Toms River or am I talking about Brick? The good news here was, at least during that time frame when I went through all the other presentations, we didn't increase the amount of people. We went down, but we didn't go down enough, all right? They did the opposite. So why are they getting beat up? The answer is very simple. The New Jersey Democratic government is promising to fulfill the fund within 7 years. They owe $45 billion. I already talked about that. If you think you're going to get more money from Sandy relief or for anything else, you got a problem, all right? They're at war with each other and can't manage their own budget. The 2 top Democrats we know who they are fighting over who gets to approve the inflated revenue numbers. I mean, think about it. Who wants to improve the numbers that are not accurate? Again, they owe the pension system $45 million. Is this who you want to be taking financial advice from? I mean, really? Think about it. They are telling you how to run the district and what you have to do in finances, and you have to raise the taxes. Baloney. A couple more things and I'll be done. All right? This just came off my computer today. The National Center for Education Statistics. I have no idea who they are or how good their numbers are, but here's what they have to say about New Jersey. 31,561 high school graduates left New Jersey for college. 31,000 went out of the state for college. 4,299 came into the state for college. This is the highest net loss in the country. Again, 31 left, 4,000 came in, all right? Highest net loss in the country. We average $20,000 a year in K through 12, as I said before. These people that leave the state don't come back, all right? Higher education cost in New Jersey is the 4th highest in the country right now. Only 45% of the college-bound graduates stay in New Jersey to attend. So that number, 31,000 that left, only 45% stayed. So we are spending $20,000 on average right now to educate our students, whether we're doing a good job, bad job, or whatever. And at the first chance they get, more than half of them leave the state, and they don't come back. Now, they can sit here and tell you you're not spending enough per student. They can tell you whatever they want to tell you. They don't run the district, you do. Is $14,000 the right number? I don't know. Is $20,000 the right number? Probably not, because I don't know what you would do with the extra money, but you run the district. Remember that. The state can't come in and tell you what to do. I think that's against the law. You run the district, you decide where you're making the cuts, you decide how much you need for taxes, you decide whether you want to raise the taxes 2% or not. Oh, by the way, where did the money they took from you people go? New Jersey will spend $2.1 million to help the defense of illegal immigrants. That's where your money went. Okay. So I talked about New Jersey. I talked about New Jersey spends the 3rd highest amount per student in the United States. New Jersey has the nation's highest property taxes. New Jersey has the highest property taxes, and they have the 3rd highest overall state and local taxes. All right? These are the people that are coming in here and telling you, you don't charge enough in taxes. Brick can afford a lot more. I would tell them, go pound salt, mind your own business, go worry about your own budget, all right?
You can tell them that, Mr. Vanelli. You can go to Trenton and you can go to a committee meeting and you can tell them directly to their face.
Next time you're going,
okay.
Let me know. Now, I was going to leave things at that today, but since the agenda got
Can I just answer the earlier question?
Wait 1 second. Can he just answer one of your earlier questions?
So there's 2 numbers in the Taxpayer's Guide to Education Spending. There's a total spending per pupil, which is for 15-16. That's the most recent data they have, which is hard to believe because 17-18 data should definitely be available. But anyway, that number is $20,385, and that does include transportation. That's a total cost per pupil.
What was that? I'm sorry. What was the number?
Total spending per pupil. And then there's a budgetary per pupil cost, which is a comparative number, and that does not include transportation, amongst other things. And that is for 15-16, $14,940, of which, comparing that to Brick, in that same year, 15-16, we were at $13,443.
Okay, so we're right there on...
We're below it.
Well, below, but slightly below the average. Okay.
Okay. My point about all of that is you run the district, the state doesn't. The state comes in and tells you you got to raise taxes. You can say, yeah, you're right, bye. That doesn't mean you have to raise taxes. That means you have to run the district. Don't take advice from those people because they are right now much worse shape than you are. Much, much worse shape. And they got a budget of $35 billion. But they owe one entity more than that $35 billion. They owe $45 billion into the pension fund.
Right.
So whatever they say, they're fighting with each other, and they're all Democrats. If you're in the Democratic Party, my recommendation would be become an independent. Don't be associated with that, because what this gentleman said is all true. Nobody's denying it. The last thing, and I brought this up before, all right, and I thought about not bringing it up because we're talking about budget things, but I went on the website today. Somebody sent me something. I don't know where it came up. The State Department of Education list of school performance. Did anybody get to see it? Oh, really? Okay, I'm going to share you with this information. And all I'm going to do is share it with you now. I'm not going to. Right? State Department of Education, there are 2,105 schools in the school district. All right? High schools are graded in the system on graduation, absenteeism, and park.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this.
Okay? Now, some of you agree with that, some of you don't agree with it. You know, park and absenteeism has been some of my hot buttons for the last 5 years. And I understand that. Middle school and elementary school are graded on absenteeism, park, and student progress in park, which we've had talks about at the past meetings, and I've said I don't see much of an improvement.
Gone through these together, you and I. Yeah.
There are 3 schools right now out of the 2,100 that got 100. There are 20 schools that got 99, and there are 20 schools that got 98. Anybody like to guess which the highest ranking school in Brick is? I would have guessed this one right off the bat. Who got the highest ranking out of all the schools in Brick School District? Come on, people, you should know this stuff. I've said at these meetings several times and say, I don't know what you're trying to reinvent the wheel. Go to the midstream school and see what the hell they're doing, because whatever they're doing is coming out right. All right, so midstreams was first school on the list at 338. Right? So they were in the top 16%. The next school was Herbertsville Elementary. They were at 863, which put them in the 59th percentile. I mean, they had a 59% score. They were in the top 41. The third school was right at the middle. That was Memorial High School. They were at 49.9%. They were 1,056. All right? I'm not going to go any further. The 8 other schools were below 50%, and I really didn't look to see where they were because I didn't have enough time. So my point is, we're always sitting here talking about what a great school district we have. We're talking about how much money we're spending. We're talking about where we're spending it. And you know what? Personally, I wouldn't mind so much that my taxes were going crazy if, in fact, I could say, we got a real good school district no matter how you measure it. Now, this is the way the state chose to measure it. This is not the way I chose to measure it. You have one school that somehow got up in the top 16%. But you have 8 out of 11 schools that are below 50%, and I really don't know where they are. So once you get the budget problem fixed, you need to fix this one. And then maybe, just maybe, we won't have so much noise. And oh, by the way, I don't envy anybody here. I know this is not easy, but I'll say one thing. Nobody's felt the pain yet. Because the positions that you took away, you made all the decisions. There was no pain associated with that yet because nobody lost their job. For years I've been coming here and say, you've got to look at every decision that you made, every position you're going to fill, and decide whether you want to fill it or not. And probably you don't have to fill it. You can do other things. If you do it that way, nobody ever loses their job. I don't know how many people retire in a school district, but every budget, every month, we have a bunch of retirees, 25, 30, or 40 years. Today starts a new dawn. I hope you're up to the task. Thank you for listening to my windy speech.
Thank you, Mr.
And I will go to any meeting that you want me to go to.
I will let you know when we're heading south. Yes.
Nan Call, 18 Greenbrier Boulevard, and I'm sorry that I missed most of this presentation. Unfortunately, I had a family situation to attend to. I did hear about telling Mr. Finelli he can go to Trenton. Well, let me tell you, I've been in this district, and in the beginning spent a lot of time coming to these meetings, and I said frequently that I've never had a child attend any public school in New Jersey, that I never expected to. However, as fate would have it, 3 years ago, my son, his wife, and my 2 young grandchildren moved to Jackson, and they go to the public schools in Jackson, not here. So I do have, but I advocated for the school districts or against certain things, and I particularly went on bus rides to Trenton with Mr. Percy and a group. And particularly, I've railed against the unfairness of the Abbott decision. I still can't get my hands around exactly what happened with that, but the one thing I know is there was a person apparently named Abbott that brought a suit, something to do with unfair, unequal distributions of money. However, at this point, who can tell me that it is fair for something like, 31 districts to be getting 55 or better % of the entire budget for the state, and everybody else has to share? Well, let me tell you, court decisions are not the end of it. If you really are serious, you get the legislature to change the laws and make it coincide with real fairness. However, when you go to Trenton, and I've gone about the schools, I've gone about other matters, I've gone about legislation for seniors and property freezes and pensions that are much too high with another organization. And one thing I know, nobody pays attention to us. Not just to you or me, not to us. We don't have the money. We don't have the political action committee that hands them loads of money. And they do whatever they want, whatever the political action committee wants. So going to Trenton doesn't do much good. But if we really start making noise, like the Me Too organization, which I don't agree with, me first, honey, and with the others, that Ferguson, that rioted, people that rioted in New York City and tied up traffic. And a lot of our problems here are tied with the traffic, which is getting much, much worse because overbuilding is going on. Brick has been overbuilt for years. You can't do anything about widening the streets unless you start doing eminent domain and taking some property away. Lakewood now, which I pass through to get to the grandchildren in Jackson, is unreal. I traveled that road, County Line Road, from 1966 when my dad moved to Howell on a regular basis. It is awful. You can't go anywhere. And it's going to get worse. We need to clear up the problem with the traffic. We need to clear up and make it a walkable communities like the council claimed they were going to do with the bike and pedestrian changes. There's nothing they can do until people get wise and insist that the townships, the county, the state, and apparently the Turnpike Authority considers themselves king. It has to be one. And there is a statute that says anything the town does with roads, they're supposed to coordinate with the county, but everybody disavows that. So you better start rallying for a whole bunch of changes and make your streets more walkable. You need to change them from, quote, county roads or old-fashioned roads and put more intersections in, more crosswalks across what's been considered dangerous ones. They have done it in other cities, in other towns. And until you get a hold of a whole problem, and while I'm at it, one question I have is I have heard that if a child's family becomes impoverished while the child is attending a school in Brick, public school that is, that the child frequently, and I know this for a fact because for short term, I was on that board in Brick, they put them up. We don't have any place in Brick to put them up. These hotels that get turned into single-room occupancies for all effect and purposes. So they send them to other towns, and that we have to provide transportation for them. How many are we doing that for these days?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I'll let it go as a rhetorical question.
We can find out.
Check
but
into it,
okay.
Because that's a huge part of your problem. In addition to the fact that this homelessness problem with young children who don't get the proper nutrition and therefore aren't able to absorb their studies. I'll be glad to speak to any of you. And one place nearby talked about Mary's Table. There's a Catholic group in a third world country that has a similar name. And the attitude of those people who are part of clergy is that you bring food, meals, you feed them in a place of education, and then they can fill their body and their minds at the same time. You need to start thinking about philanthropic and volunteerism. Sorry, but it's very annoying to have to pay this kind of money when, for 3 generations, my family, except for 2, and that's including my siblings, went to Catholic schools and never was drew anything, even though we were out of state. And now everybody is getting free education, and we have a governor that's talking about free college. I went to college after I had gotten my buyout from my job, and I paid my own way then. It's terrible.
Thank you. Any other public? Mr. Reed.
Still at the same address by the way.
You haven't moved?
For the record keepers. Just to clear up the numbers on the student transportation, since I did get was able to print out this period ending 6/30 for this year. The budgeted amount was $9 million for student transportation services. Overall.
Right.
And the expenditures were about $8.9 million. So I don't know what the budget is for this coming year because I couldn't look that up. And that works out to about 6.5% of the overall expenditures for the year ended June 30th. So that's, a significant portion of it. The big pieces in there is salary for pupil transportation, home and school regular, $3 million. Then the other big one, the special ed isn't as much as you think, it's $900,000, is contract services special ed ESCs. That was $2.2 million. Do you know what that's for? ESCs? I'm not familiar with that.
Educational Services
Commission, right?
And we contract that out?
Correct. So that's MOESC does all the shared service transportation between districts. So we have a special education student going to a district in, I'm just going to say Monmouth County, and Toms River's got 2, and Lakewood's got 1. MOESC coordinates all that transportation.
Okay. So those are the actual numbers, but it is a significant portion. And for those that aren't familiar with it, the courtesy busing is those that are within the mileage of what the state considers you can walk or get your own means of transportation to school. Thank you.
Thank you. Any? Okay.
Question, how much has been spent in the past 10 years on safety in the schools?
Oh, that's...
Can't answer that right now. I mean, that's
I think that's changing. We can. No, that's not true.
not true. It's not
That's-
zero.
It's not zero. I'm not sure of the
I mean, when you
exact
go to
number.
when you go to our school buildings, you press a buzzer, and somebody in the office answers. That buzzer is a safety thing that costs the district money. There are cameras. There are different things around the district in every one of our buildings that have cost.
And that's not adequate now, you're saying. Now we need a fortress built around the schools.
I don't think it's a
one
fortress.
point of entry.
I think what we need is to improve what we have. Society has changed, and based on those changes and some of the things happening in loss of life, and I put one child's life at Priceless, to be able to change and provide the safest environment, we need to make some modifications and changes. So we do have security in the schools, we do have a Buzzin system, a sign-in system, and people who man that. This is, as society changes and there are more violent acts, this allows us to hopefully try to get ahead of that curve and be as safe as possible.
I don't want to come off sounding like, I don't care what happens to the kids. Of course I care what happens to the kids. They didn't care when my kid was in school, but I care about what happens to the kids now. This has been going on. Everybody uses Parkland as the big, oh my God. It was tragic. It was enormous. Columbine. This place, that place. It's not like it only happened in Parkland.
And we've made moderate changes as those things have happened.
A buzzer. Bzz.
But again, regrettably, if you feel your children weren't taken care of when they were here, mine have all graduated. I feel they did an adequate job, so we clearly disagree. That said, again, I think we need to get to a place, it is an expense, because in light of what is happening, things are progressing at a much more rapid pace. Mr. Finelli alludes to some of the things he gets to read in the paper and statistics. I know right now there's a federal lawsuit over, we have robotics classes where now they can make untraceable weapons, and somebody wants to release those plans, and 8 states are suing. Again, in light of changes, I think we are being reasonable, but where we're at right now in a difficult time. I know we haven't had a discussion about revisiting the referendum or anything. But for right now, my concern is based on what I see happening. I'm concerned. Our referral rate for kids with suicide ideation, homicidal ideations, is probably, quadrupled. In the building I'm in, quadrupled, and that's a middle school. So again, if kids have these ideations and can follow through on any of them, we need to provide those services. Beyond that, again, what's happening outside and people's thoughts and the ability to follow through on some of these heinous acts, I think we're in a good place, and I think we're moving in the right direction, and we always care. I think the reason we're floating this referendum and plan on doing so is because we care. And yes, when my kids are in school or my neighbor's kids, I want a fortress. I want them to be safe.
Well, I know a few people got up and they go, as parents, we want how many students does Brick have total?
Approximately 8,400,
Right.
8,500.
Okay, so 8,000. So we'll say there's 12,000 parents. What about the rest of the residents who don't have kids in the system?
They have a vote just like the
That's
parents.
right.
Mhm.
And you're going to add on to the school budget, so our school tax.
Only if it passes.
No, I'm not talking about the referendum.
Oh, okay.
because the taxes are going to go up. We haven't gotten our full taxes yet. And by November, I can tell you, I'm not voting for anything. Mr. Reed brought up the school buses, and I have to bring up something because it's almost time for the kids to go back to school. Why does a school bus have to stop at every block? Do we have so many disabled children in Brick that they cannot walk to a central?
I know that sometimes there's no sidewalks, and I know depending on the age of the children that affects. Our transportation
I'll tell you, I live in
director isn't here.
Herbertsville, and I leave my house. I used to leave at 6:20. Unfortunately, that was when the bus came and it stopped here, 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 here. So I'm assuming that's the high school kids at that early in the morning. They can't walk. My daughter and many kids in my area walked from here to here, here to here, here to here. Not.
That's something that we can get.
Last year, they did start last year. I know that we had received a few calls, that Dennis had received some calls that we dealt with early in the year where runs were compacted, so meaning some kids did have to work. So I know that was done, maybe not to the level you want, but I know I was sitting as president at the time, and with the Transportation Committee, we did have that discussion. They did try to expand those, so instead of stopping at every block, I can't tell you with depth or what level, but I can absolutely tell you it was a conversation we had, and I know when runs were going to be planned, that was a conversation that was had for 18-19 to attempt to make those a little less, as you would.
Well, as you're saying, the age and everything, I'm talking from kindergarten. I know it's 40 years ago, and maybe the kids were tougher and they were more streetwise, I guess, down here. How, I don't know. But they could walk a block to get to a bus stop. And why do I see a bus parked on the side of the road just sitting there burning gas? We're talking dollars and cents, but it's every morning that I pass that bus, I want to go punch the bus driver. Why are you sitting there burning my gas? Wait till later to pick up your bus, or wait till later to leave with your bus.
They may be waiting for their next run. I can't answer that question, but next time you see it, if you want to give a call and give the number and what time where they are and what time we can find out. I can't answer that. The transportation.
The bus routes doesn't know that this bus driver finishes a route at this time, and
I'm not going to answer for our transportation director.
Well,
we can
I'm going to be on the
ask
phone
him.
a lot then, because it's ridiculous. The number of times I see buses, and it's not just one, I can specifically give you 2 different buses that sit out in public just burning gas.
Well, if you can give us, actually, the superintendent, that information after the meeting, he'll look into it. I appreciate you letting us know. I wasn't aware.
I would think that the bus coordinator should know.
He's excellent, so we'll get you an answer.
I don't think so.
Well, if you give us the information, we'll research that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Karen. Thanks.
I know we're transitioning to a new website, and there was something missing I wanted to point out because it is important. At the last meeting, I had asked specifically what the referendums security measures were, and Mr. Edwards directed me to the budget presentation online. However, I just wanted to point out I don't believe it's on the new website any longer. And
you just fixed it, right? Or no, was that something?
No, not the.
Sorry,
no.
I apologize. Okay, yeah.
The detailed and the user-friendly that hadn't been on are now on, but the budget presentation, which I think was, it was done as a PowerPoint or something similar.
We'll fix that then, Karen.
That isn't on there. So I just, and since there are a lot of people here who weren't at that last meeting, I just thought it would be helpful to clarify what those safety and security measures are that they said were going to be included on the referendum. I know there were 4, and Mr. Edwards will have to help me because I'm not recalling the 4th one. I know the 2 of them, one was for automatic locking doors, correct? So all the doors would have some kind of electronic device that they would all lock at once in the event of an emergency. There were going to be some kind of card readers so that anyone entering the building has to have a driver's license to screen to make sure that they're not registered with Megan's Law. Those 2 items, I believe, were recommended by the architect. And I believe Mr. Uhar, who recommended that, also handled things for the last time we did a referendum when he was with Concord Engineering.
I'm not familiar
Yeah,
with
same
that.
gentleman. Also, the third one was to create one entry into all the school
The
buildings.
vestibules, right? Mhm.
And Mr. Edwards, can you remember the fourth one for me, since I can't
Upgrade.
It
access
would be the upgrade to the video
Yeah.
surveillance systems.
Upgrade to
To
videos?
the video surveillance systems.
As well as the alarm systems to have the wireless mics outside, wireless sound systems outside, as well as alert lights for the appropriate colors, depending on what the lockdown was called for, whether it's active shooter, whether it's something else going on that would alert the building both inside and outside, with wireless speakers that would go into the field, into the parking lot, so that anyone approaching the building, as far as parents or buses, would know that there was an active situation going on in the schools.
What was that? I don't remember that being in that budget presentation. There was something different. I don't remember that one being
There were
in
upgrades.
that. You may have included that
Yeah.
after the fact, but that budget presentation
No,
didn't
they've
have that,
been
I don't
in-
think.
They've been in the whole time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they've been in the whole time.
That's the thing the chief.
Just to clarify a couple of
Right.
points, though, that Mrs. Cusinelli made, because I maybe misunderstood at the last meeting when Mr. Philippone was talking about where those recommendations came from.
They were the
Mr.
police
Ure
department, too.
developed the cost factors associated with those
Right.
recommendations, but the recommendations came from the police chief.
Right.
The security, all the security infrastructure improvements have been worked on in conjunction with the police department. Mr. Ure did not recommend these things to us.
Oh, that's what Mr. Philippone said
Yeah,
at
I
the
think-
meeting.
Philippone
I think
wasn't
what you're
feeling well.
misunderstanding is what Mr. Philippone is saying is that Mr. Ure developed the costs that are associated with these programs.
But these programs were directly
They were
recommended by the Brick Police.
They were developed with the Brick Police, correct?
So those specific, I don't know, I know there were names associated with them, and I don't have the names because I couldn't access it on the website. But those programs that are specific products, those
Yeah,
were
there were-
recommended by the Brick Police.
They were. You're spinning a different way. The Brick Police and the administration, which Mr. Philippone has taken part of, spent a lot of time this past year together, working together to come up with security infrastructure improvements. These are those recommendations.
Okay.
So they weren't recommended by the police. They weren't recommended by the administration. They worked together as a team throughout the year to make these recommendations.
Are these programs already in place in any local school districts to kind of
can't
see
answer
if
that
they
for you.
were?
That would be a question you'd have to ask for Mr. Philippone as to where they came up with these recommendations. I don't know that.
Okay.
I wasn't part of that committee. I didn't take part in those meetings. Ms. McNamara, I'm not sure if you did.
I did not.
So I don't know.
I mean, I would hope that we maybe would have gotten recommendations, from people who are using these, just to make sure before we put out a referendum to the town and, at this kind of
I think
level.
it's stuff that the committee, that the police department and the administration feel very strongly that these things are very good, safe security features that would like to be implemented in our school district. It's been researched. I don't think that it's something that they just willy-nilly, as Mr. Reed had used earlier, right? Willy-nilly decided that we were going to spend money on.
I'm sorry, but I'm just having flashbacks
Now,
to the $1 million spent on bus swipe cards that we had kindergartners with it was a nightmare. And I'm
Oh,
sorry,
and
when I see
then-
things like this, sometimes I just kind of hope that
Mr.
due diligence
Ure
was
never
done.
worked for Concord Engineering, so to correct another thing that you stated.
Oh, it wasn't?
Never worked for Concord.
Okay, I just remember him doing presentations for the referendum. Perhaps I have a different company in mind that
He
it
worked
was.
for a previous architectural firm, but Concord Engineering was not that firm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember him doing presentations at the council meetings and at our board meetings. So when his name came
He'll be
up, I
back on August
recognized
9th
it.
to do a presentation on this referendum.
I'm sorry?
He'll be back on August 9th to do a presentation on this referendum.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other public comment? Oh, please, Mr. Finelli.
If I remember the presentation that you did on security, you brought an outside consultant in also, didn't you?
Yes, we
He
did.
did, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Who was part of that committee that
Yeah,
we're just talking
it's
about.
part of that committee.
Neglected to mention that. You said it was the police chief and the school
Sorry,
administration.
No, there was
Mr.
another
Spinelli's
committee that,
question was, has anybody else done this?
Yes.
I think you paid $25,000.
You're absolutely-
to bring an outside consultant. who
We
should
no,
know
no,
these
no.
things.
that's
no,
not
we
true.
did,
No, we didn't pay $25,000 for an outside. The outside consultant was actually brought in by the police department.
police department paid for
Okay.
that.
They paid for it.
Mhm.
So they paid?
Mhm.
Oh, so
Yeah.
it didn't come out of this pocket,
No,
it came out of this
came out of that pocket.
It
yeah.
came out of
There was somebody there.
Yes, you are
should
correct.
know if these things work or
Absolutely.
not.
it came
Yes.
out of
It came out of drug forfeiture money.
right.
That wasn't so bad, was it?
So it didn't
No,
cost
that
you
wasn't so
anything out of
bad.
either
I'm
pocket.
sorry. Thanks, yes, Karen. But we are going to do a presentation on this on August 9th, so you can ask questions directly to the police chief when he's here.
For the
Also.
record, a
Mhm.
little bit of a delay, but I got my needle in the track here. It was Spitzel architecture, I meant to say. Thank you.
I couldn't
So
remember
there's
who it
my.
was.
There's
I
my.
couldn't remember who it was, but that's who it was.
Okay, thank you. I feel better now.
I
Thank
knew it
you.
wasn't
Thanks,
Concord.
Karen. Any other public comment? Sorry, I saw a nod, I thought. No, we're good? Nice. All right, well, board comment. Melita, do you have anything? No? Okay. John?
Thank you. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Victoria?
I was going to say no, thank you. I mean, thank you for coming out tonight, and I'll talk more about it in August, but joy, 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 joy is base camp talent show. It
Oh,
happened
that
in
was
our
fun.
high school yesterday and Warren Alley 12 today. There's nothing like watching children sing and dance to I'm a Chicken.
What she's saying is yesterday and today were the summer program talent shows. And today was the preschool through fifth grade talent show, which was absolutely adorable. The kids had a lot of fun. I still can't do the floss, but these kids were going at it, let me tell you. It was crazy.
I'll give you a
So it was a lot of fun. And then yesterday was the high school, and she had attended that. I unfortunately had other plans, and I couldn't make it, but it was just, I got a ton of pictures sent to me, and it was just another really job well done by the base camp staff and
Brett
their
Novak
teachers.
and Mr. Capone,
And
music
yeah,
director.
they were just phenomenal, and the kids were ear to ear, and they are just totally looking forward to their pizza party. I was hearing about that all day today as we were high-fiving the kids coming off stage. So that's what she was talking about. It was a really good day, and Mr. Novak will be making a presentation, and I believe in the September board meeting, just to give us some pictures and show us a little bit about what had gone on at the base camp summer program this year.
Maria.
Maria, are you good? Maria's good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
So basically, let's see. The next board meeting is August 9th. It's a regular meeting here at 7 p.m. We'll have a safety presentation, so bring your questions. And can I get a motion?
Motion.
And a
Motion.
for
Second.
this?
Second.
No, I don't think it'll be finished until the end of August, beginning of September.
August 26th.
August 26th, it'll be fixed. Mary?
Tagliardi?
Yes.
Ms. McCullough?
Yes.
Lamella?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes. Thank you, everyone.